Well,
Hi.
welcome everyone. We're so happy to have you with us today. This is going to be sort of an exciting half hour or so to learn a little bit more about how the Saratoga Retirement Community came to be. As many of you know, the City of Saratoga has named May Historical Preservation Month. So it's really fitting that we pause and just sort of focus on the rich heritage of Saratoga and the unique enhancement that Saratoga Retirement Community has brought here for us. This year, it's my pleasure to serve as the president of the Saratoga Retirement Community Residents Council, which means I'm representing all of our residents this year in continuing to make this a wonderful place to be. And it's my theme this year, reconnecting community. So this is even more appropriate that we hold events like this that help us reconnect with our City of Saratoga, our Historical Commission, and then also the residents here. So again, thank you for being here. And now it is my pleasure indeed to introduce Saratoga's Mayor, Yan Zhao. Mayor, please make a few opening remarks for us.
Thank you, Bev. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yan Zhao, Mayor of the City of Saratoga. Just a few weeks ago, the Saratoga City Council recognized May as National Preservation Month. During the month of May, the Saratoga Historical Foundation and the Saratoga Heritage Preservation Commission are helping our community learn about our local history through a variety of activities. These events help educate our community as well as build a sense of community pride. Saratoga has a rich history, starting as a sawmill and evolving many times over to eventually become the community we know today. While there has been a lot of change, one thing has remained constant: a deep and unwavering love for Saratoga. I am so grateful we have not lost this passion, as demonstrated by residents like Annette, Hugh, and many others. One way that the love of Saratoga shines through is in the preservation of historic landmarks like the Saratoga Manor Building. This beautiful structure was constructed in 1912 by the Independent Order of Odd Fellows and Rebecca's, one of the oldest fraternal orders in the world. Odd Fellows has a long history of serving others, and since Odd Fellows built the Saratoga Manor, it has provided care and shelter for older adults in our community. I know that maintaining Saratoga Manor is a labor of love. It's also a gift to our community. These physical reminders of our city's past build pride, inspire us to learn more about our own history, and connect Saratoga residents across generations through friendship, love, and truth. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of the National Preservation Month celebration today. Enjoy the rest of your program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Zhao. And we are so pleased that you can be leading our city this year. And we wish you all good fortune in your efforts. Thank you so much. Our next speaker for today is Annette Stransky. And Annette is the president of the Saratoga Historical Foundation. She's doing all she can to keep our rich heritage alive. And in doing so, she's also co-chair of the Heritage Preservation Commission. Please join me in welcoming Annette.
Thank you for inviting me to talk to you about both the Heritage Preservation Commission as well as the Saratoga Historical Foundation. Heritage Preservation Month is held in May, and it's celebrated across the U.S. each year. So congratulations to SRC today for including us in your very special presentation. So far, to celebrate, we've had walking tours hosted by the Saratoga History Museum, We've had Montalvo give a walking tour of the villa as well as the garden. Hakonia is celebrating with a special exhibit, and the Heritage Preservation Commission has a special 20-minute presentation posted on the city website showing heritage homes and trees as well as what we do. So we hope you'll go up and you will see what the Heritage Preservation does for the community of Saratoga. And it's very important to us to preserve the history of Saratoga for the community. But I do want to get in a quick commercial message on our Heritage Orchard. For those of you that may know, it's on Saratoga Avenue, and it is near the library. And on either June 19th or June 26th, we will have a community harvest day where you can pick a bucket of apricots. Now, is there nothing better than a fresh apricot? It will take place on either day, and it's a one-day event from 9 to 3. And of course, we haven't settled on the exact date because obviously it's up to the fruit to be ripened in time. So the city is watching it, and I hope you go up to the city website to check for the date. They will be sending out more announcements, but since the HPC works very hard on preserving the Heritage Orchard, I wanted to make sure you knew about this very important day. So there's a few other events that the Saratoga Historical Foundation is doing that you might be interested in. We have a wonderful presentation on apricots and memories of Santa Clara Valley on June 28th on Zoom. We have David Mariani of the Mariani family to talk about affluence and poverty in the Valley on July 26th. And of course, on September 27th at 7 p.m., we have the history of IOOF and SRC. It's a lecture by noted author Peter Sellers and Rita Cooper. So all these items and lectures are free. You can find out the schedule by going up to www.saratogahistory.com. And as you know, we have this very delightful museum, one-room schoolhouse, and an 1850s pioneer cottage home that you can see. Admission is free. The historical park will be open in July, and we have lots of events that we will be doing every month. And you can always go up to saratogahistory.com to see the wide selection. So happy Heritage Month, and thank you for participating. And I hope to see you all soon, hopefully in person, but you know, Zoom is second best. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Annette. And yes, at least we can get out and do some wonderful walking tours. There's a lot to be seen. And as you said, events galore coming up this summer. I know we're all anxious to get out, and this would be a wonderful way to celebrate our city and celebrate being able to be out and about. Thank you again so much for being with us. And now to begin our historical journey of the Odd Fellows and SRC, we have not only a resident, but also a board member of the Odd Fellows Homes of California. Ivan Foley is going to lead us off with our historical journey. Ivan, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me give you a little history about the Odd Fellows. How did the Odd Fellows get into this business? The Independent Order of Odd Fellows is a worldwide fraternal organization of both women and men dedicated to the goals of visiting the sick, educating needy children, and relieving the distressed. The origin of its name is believed to come from a group of laborers in odd trades or doing odd jobs who formed a fraternity for fellowship and self-insurance to provide for help in times of illness or injury when not able to work. Their motto is friendship, love, and truth, and referred to as the three-link fraternity. The earliest account of the Oddfellows Lodge began with the meeting in London in 1748. People from different trades and walks of life were drawn together as brothers and sisters who contributed their hard-earned wages to a common fund, which was used then for unfortunate times such as sickness, loss of a job, or burial. That eventually became known as the Grand Lodge of England. King George IV joined in 1780 when he was Prince of Wales. In the 17th century England, life was tough. There was lots of sickness, orphaned kids, and widowed mothers. The first lodge in the United States received its charter from England in 1819, meeting in Baltimore, Maryland, at the Seven Stars Inn, and is known as the Washington Lodge No. 1. At that time, the city was suffering both a yellow fever and a smallpox epidemic, as well as mass unemployment. People were dying in the streets and in their homes. Such was the start of the Oddfellows in North America, dedicating the organization to visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. It appears that these obligations are relevant today. California, as in early 19th century Baltimore. Today, the Oddfellows continue to provide retirement homes and cemeteries and foster child care. In 1842, the Oddfellows of the United States declared their independence from England and adopted their own American-style ritual. Baltimore was chosen as the head order in the United States, and the name became Independent Order of Oddfellows. And women were included in the Rebeccas back in 1852. A few notable Oddfellows include the 5 presidents: Ulysses S. Grant, Franklin Roosevelt, Warren Hardy, William McKinley, and Rutherford Hayes. Along with the gold rush, Oddfellowship came to California. And on September the 9th, 1849, one day to the year before California became the 31st state in the United States, California Lodge No. 1 was created in San Francisco. The lodges in jurisdictions such as California are part of the Grand Lodge, which once had offices here in Saratoga next to the original library, now moved to downtown San Jose. As of 2018, there were over 4,500 fellows and Rebeccas in California. Throughout the world, the Oddfellows have created homes for their members. The first home in California was at Thermalito, and it opened in 1895. The original model was for members who were elderly and needed a place to stay. The homes were often working homes where residents grew food and raised livestock to feed themselves. One of those homes came to exist in Saratoga. In March of 1908, the Grand Lodge of California purchased the Oakwood Farm of some 85 acres of rolling hills here in Saratoga for $16,000 in anticipation of building a long-awaited Oddfellows' home of California. 60 acres of that were orchards. As you know, we are now Saratoga Retirement Community. Groundbreaking took place February 21, 2003. And included in the preparation for the Oddfellows sign by the historic park. Dedication ceremonies were May 15th, 1912. Then again, remodeling of the manor took place in 1996, and Helen's going to cover that for us a little bit later. You are familiar with Barnes Hall, which was named for William Barnes, born in Boston in 1934 and initiated into the Oddfellows after he and his parents moved to Georgia. He was a member of several California lodges. William Barnes was featured
Sorry, Ivan. You've managed to get muted.
Maybe that will help.
Yes, okay.
Are we back again?
Yeah, you were just in the middle of talking about William Barnes.
Yes, William Barnes was the featured orator at the dedication ceremonies for Saratoga Manor in 1912, and eventually buried in the Saratoga Oddfellows Home Cemetery on the hill behind Saratoga Retirement Community. His marker is the largest and the only stone monument in the cemetery. That brings us to the cemetery on Oddfellows property here in Saratoga. Burying the dead was taken very seriously by the Oddfellows, and many lodges purchased land and established their own cemeteries. No exception here in Saratoga. One of the residents, Harwood Kolsky, took on a project of renovating the cemetery, renovating the cemetery that resulted in a 56-page booklet which records all 826 graves. That book is in our library. The first burial was in 1911, and the most recent a few years ago. It is not a typical cemetery. The average age of death is 82. Many in their 90s, and 3 over 100. There are no children and no young people. Each lodge chooses its own charitable projects. Some call it the Educational Foundation. Some called it the UN Pilgrimage for Youth. There was a Visual Research Foundation, the Arthritis Foundation, and an orphanage in Cambodia. In 1989, one of the Oddfellows developed the Living Legacy program, which encouraged lodges to plant trees, and over 8 million trees were part of that program. And for the past 100 years, the Oddfellows Rebecca Children's Home of California at Gilroy was provided care for children with severe mental, emotional, and behavioral problems, serving a few less than some 3,000 children and families. Rebecca Children's Services has 7 programs to provide care to meet each child's needs, plus foster home care and adoptions. I would like to congratulate the Conservation Committee here at Saratoga for taking seriously one of the purposes one of the purposes included in the Oddfellows mission statement regarding environment, such as educating residents about recycling and water usage. In addition to the two retirement homes, both in Saratoga and Napa, the Grand Lodge of California owns Fellowship Plaza just next door with 150 apartments and housing some 200 low-income seniors, and that opened in 1979. That covers the history as I see it up to this point, and Helen's going to carry it a little further.
Ivan, thank you so much. What a fascinating journey. And many, many things, of course, I did not know. I'm fascinated by this cemetery and that gate because I know many of our new residents who take a tour around here eventually find out that there is a cemetery, but we haven't been able to get into it lately. So we're hoping that as time goes on here, we'll be able to have access and look at some of those monumental headstones. Thanks again, Ivan. And now to continue with our fascinating journey, we've got Helen Connolly who's going to speak to us. She's an early resident of SRC, and we call her our local and outstanding historian. Helen?
Thank you. As you heard, the first Oddfellows retirement home in California and the forerunner of our present SRC was in Thermalitos near Oroville, California, when the builders of the Bella Vista Resort Hotel on the Feather River ran out of money. And so they donated their unfinished hotel to the Oddfellows, of which they were members. This opened in 1896 and it housed 130 senior citizens, 105 men and 28 women on 118 acres of orange groves. This lasted until 1912, 16 years, when they moved here to Saratoga. That great one-day move was on November 18th, 1912, a big occasion when the 130 residents and their helpers rose at 5 o'clock in the morning for an early breakfast, and then were driven by all the residents all the local people who had cars at that time, drove them to the train station, the Western Pacific Railroad. And this for the 200-mile trip here to Saratoga. All along the way, people were gathered, hundreds, many with flags, waving at the train as it passed. They got to Sacramento, where they had to change from the Western Pacific to the Southern Pacific tracks. Then they went on and stopped in Stockton because there was no dining car on the train. So they had to take all 130 residents plus their helpers off the train, and they went to local churches where the ladies had prepared dinners for them. So they had their one meal of the day, and back on the train, and they finally came to Congress Springs, which was Saratoga's name at that time. And they were taken off the train in the dark, and there were another 50 cars waiting for them of the local people who had cars, which were mostly Model A's and Model T's. And they were brought here and put to bed in the manor. And that's when the manor was all single rooms with bathrooms down the hall. That's not an appropriate picture. But that's the Thermalito home, which was quite a grand hotel, and which they really enjoyed living in, but they were afraid of that it was unhealthy. And so then they came here to the manor. This is a picture in front of the manor, as you see. When they arrived, Fruitvale Avenue was in a narrow dirt road called McCall, and it went through fruit orchards and vineyards. And across the road from us was the Novakovich farmhouse, which was built in 1890. And then next to it was the Farwell homestead, which was 40 acres, which Frank Farwell got for free in 1856 by squatting on the land after the Mexican owners of what was Rancho Quito, who were driven out after the Mexican-American War, which ended in 1848. Now, the bells in our bell tower came from the USS Pensacola, which served the US Navy in the Civil War. It was decommissioned in 1911 when Woodrow Wilson was the president, and Josephus Daniels, an Oddfellow, was Secretary of the Navy. So he was able to get the bells, and they were dedicated here in 1913. But you're not hearing them now. You're hearing a new electronic system, which was installed in 2011. And it now rings daily at noon and 5 p.m. and plays a selection of songs. Next was the Oakwood Farm, I'll tell you about, which came with the farm buildings and animals when they bought the farm originally from the, I believe it was the Jennings family. And they paid, well, you know, you heard from Ivan, they paid $16,000 for this 85-acre farm. Well, in 1972, Betty Peck, a local kindergarten teacher, launched a community garden on 10 acres in the cul-de-sac. By now, the original 85-acre farm was down to 47 acres, which it presently is. Thousands of children came from all over Santa Clara County to help plant and grow crops and care for the animals that were here, that included chickens, sheep, pigs, goats, and a cow. There was also a barn, a chicken coop, a cookhouse, a greenhouse, and water. And this was all where our present cul-de-sac is. So they learned the new French intensive gardening system, which uses no machines and no chemicals. And the children also had the original farmer's market, which was here on weekends. And then the maypole dance on May 1st became an annual tradition. This garden lasted, we have a slide of that, if we could move on to that. There it is, that's the cul-de-sac when they had, before they put the community garden in, but you can see the manor building in the background there. And that was before they made this, the street and put the cottages there. So that's what the cul-de-sac looked like. It lasted 15 years. This garden lasted until 1987, when the Oddfellows needed the land to expand the retirement community. You can still see the Italian cypress trees on the hill when you walk down the cul-de-sac. These were planted under the direction of John McLaren. Yeah, that's the picture. Okay. Okay, so John McLaren, who was an Oddfellows member, who landscaped the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, as well as the Oddfellows home here. And the negotiations with the city of Saratoga took years longer than expected. So it was February 2 of 1996 when the city council approved an increase from the 170 beds that were in the manor to a total of 307 on the property. But it was 1999 when the Pacific Retirement Services took over the rebuilding and the management of SRC, and also agreed to manage the Meadows of Napa, which was a hotel that they acquired in 1992. Those are the only Oddfellow retirement homes in the state of California. So all the people from Southern California had to come way up here to a retirement home. For the stories of the first residents who moved here in 2004, you can see the pioneer albums in the pavilion and the manor. We still have 14 pioneers living in independent living, and I'm one of them. I moved in on January 5th of 2005. By February, we had the first interest group going, the Monday Walkers. And then we were exploring our local neighborhoods. Then the other groups that came were for golf and arts and crafts and computers. We had book group and several bridge groups, puzzles and a poker group. We also adopted Rosemary School and had a busload of residents going there to volunteer every week. And then we had the play reading group, which has read and acted more than 100 plays. And the writers group has produced 4 volumes of Out of Our Lives, plus many individual books. Eric Kay started What Makes the World Around You Tick. And he got more than 100 of our accomplished residents to talk about their careers. He also launched the Great Courses DVD series, which provided more than 600 hours of lectures every Friday afternoon in Barnes Hall. And he brought us Dr. Richard Caro's Longevity Circles, which explore technology to help seniors and continues now on Zoom. One of our earliest challenges was what to call this place, as Saratoga Retirement Community was too long and too boring. So we had a contest, and these names were suggested: the Center, Vintage Village, the Ranch, Elder Camp, Fossil Farm, and then went downhill from there. So we left it at this. Then we needed street names. And so we appointed a committee to find historical names. But the cul-de-sac crowd insisted on Elderberry Lane, which was the name of a comic strip at that time. But also suggested were Deerwood and Oakwood. But again, there was no agreement. Then the fire department told us they had to have names to find us or our insurance would not be valid. So then we did come up with Colfax Lane, which was named after a US vice president under Ulysses Grant, who was an odd fellow, and McLaren Lane, who was our landscaper. But I think it was finally Google that gave us the other names so they could put us on their digital maps. And the final question that was raised by the New York Times and echoed in our Toga Times newsletter was what to call the people living here. Why call us senior citizens when you don't call people under 50 junior citizens? So, and also don't call us aging nor golden agers. And no to senile, old fogies, biddies, codgers, coots, cronies, or crones, or geezers. Especially don't call us senile or feeble or eccentric. So I guess elderly will have to serve until someone comes up with something better. We haven't moved the slides. That's the muddy streets. When we moved in, it rained for a solid month or more, and we had no landscaping, and so we had to deal with the mud. And then the next slide, that was the dedication, which was about March of 2005, with tents out in front of the manor. It was well attended. Okay.
Helen, thank you. Thank you so very much. What a fascinating trip. And I love the personal aspects that you added since you've been here. That history makes it not only relevant, but fun. So thank you for sharing all of that. And there are many, many more things that Ivan and Helen know that will be interesting to hear about as time goes on. But now we thought we would see if anyone who is joining us today would have a question that they'd like to ask Ivan or Helen. If you do, if you would please unmute yourself and ask the question, let us know who you're directing it to. That would be just great. Any questions? Well, I would like to ask, did the farm across the way, Vidoviches, did they start out with apricots?
Oh, Novakovich?
Novakovich, yes.
Yes, what's planted there is pretty much what they started. And we know that the minute the mother of the family passes away, it'll probably be developed into housing.
Well, I hope not, darn it anyway. When we first moved here, the secret was that if you want the best apricots, you know where to get them, right across the road. So that's been one of our little secret pleasures going to get those apricots. So many unhidden treasures in this area, and we're so thankful to get to learn about them as time goes on. Anyone else come up with a question?
Well, I'm one of those new residents who discovered the cemetery with a little help. And we did notice a second large marker in there for someone named Eli Belt. And I just wondered whether anybody knows who that person was.
No, never heard of that.
What attracted you to that particular headstone?
Well, it's by itself, it's large. We couldn't go in, so we were crawling around the outside of the fence through bushes and brambles, and so that we could see, any other markers. And that one says Eli Belt. I actually have a picture of it, which I won't try to share here, but he was a member of Monroe Lodge, died 1927. Okay. Wondered.
Well, hopefully when we are able to go into that cemetery, we'll uncover a lot of other names too. And maybe Ivan will be able to connect us with some history about those people.
So is that book with the 826 names and so on, is that it? Can we get into the library now and find that book?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether the library was open yet.
Yes.
Okay.
There are several wonderful resources that have been put together, and Helen's really taken the charge to make sure that we do preserve our history here. So in the pavilion, in the library, in the Manor building, those are great places to go and look for the albums and other information that's housed there.
Tony,
Yes, question for Annette. I did a little searching to find out if there was a historical record of the manor as a heritage building, and I couldn't find any reference to it. I just wonder if Annette knows if there is a specific record of the manor being recognized as a architectural historical building.
Oh, absolutely. It's on our heritage resource inventory. If you go up to saratoga.ca.us and click on commissions, and then click on HPC, Heritage Preservation Commission, you can see that you are on our inventory, and very proudly so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
Tony,
thanks.
I was just going to add, Tony, you might be interested that there was a competition for building that building, and the three companies competed. The one in San Francisco won. I don't have the name on the tip of my tongue, but they got $400 prize for the winning competition. And then the second place one was a company from San Jose, and third place was from Oakland. And so, but people were wondering if Julia Morgan, the famous architect, had built this building because it was somewhat in her style, but she did not. It was designed by a man in San Francisco.
Yep. Okay. Very good.
Very good. Well, we want to thank you all for joining us today, and I particularly want to thank Mayor Zhao and Annette Stransky, and of course our wonderful speakers, Ivan Foley and Helen Conley. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through the history of Saratoga Retirement Community, all of its forefathers, and the breadth and depth that they've brought to us. We're very proud of the heritage, and we hope to see you again on another journey. Thank you for attending today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. This is great.
All right.